Hey everyone, Sawmill Charlie. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. Hey Tar Heel, Dan and Apries, Dan and Tom and Steve and Randy and Robert. And let me go ahead and Dave also go ahead and pin the chat. Well, goodness gracious. And there we go. It's pinned. See if we can get everything organized here. There we go. Bob's in. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Charlie. How you doing?
Well, all right. Kind of button the hatches down. We're gonna have a lot of wind, a lot of rain tomorrow, all day long. It's supposed to start like 11 o'clock tonight and get about 3 inches of rain. They're, you know how the media is. They like to hype it. Maybe some
Right.
flooding or whatever, that kind of stuff. And
we got a little bit of rain today, and I think it's calling for a little bit tomorrow. And what else? Supposed to get down in the 30s tonight, they said. So.
Yeah, it's been barely into the 40s, 40, 45. Yeah. You got it, Tom?
I'm getting it. I'm good. Hey, Charlie. Hey, Bob.
Hey, how's it going?
So it's, I don't know. It's 45 degrees right now. And it's been pretty much 45. You still got it. Test.
What's that?
Right now we can hear you. I can still hear myself. You still got it turned on for something. Anyway, it was about 45 degrees all day today. It was cold, and by the later in the day, it got to the point where you still got to turn that thing off. Is it you, Bob, or not? No?
Not me.
It's coming through your YouTube side or something, unless you
might have got it now.
Is that better?
1, 2. I think you got it. There you go.
I got it.
Anyway, this afternoon got it. You could feel the dampness in the air coming in with the rain and all. And they're, like you say, predicting 3 inches or so. And Sunday is supposed to be sunny and windy. And I don't know. And then next week, I thought it was supposed to get in the 70s so I could sell some nukes and get rid of them. And it looks like a middle of the week, another crappy, rainy couple of days. So I don't know when I'm going to get them things out the door.
Tom, you going to get snow?
No snow for me.
Thought they were calling for snow up that way.
Yeah, not the northern part of Ohio is supposed to get a whole bunch. I think like 1.5 feet. But I'm down at the very south end, so it's supposed to be a little bit of rain today and a little bit tonight, and then tomorrow's supposed to be sunny in the mid. No, tomorrow's supposed to be cold still. So Charlie, you got a couple days because we've just had a little bit, but Sunday and Monday is supposed to be real nice, 50s and 60s.
Right. I don't know. I watched the news today, and it seemed like there was like 3 different storms coming in. There's one that's coming across where you live at through Ohio and all that. And that's kind of going north and hitting the northern tier of the country with snow. And the one that I'm getting seems to be coming through Georgia and then coming up the East Coast. I don't know. Are you not getting rain now, Bob?
Yeah, I'm getting a little bit. It hadn't been bad. Just a little bit of misting. Not too bad at all. Of course, it's right after I start, blow all the leaves down off my porch and everything. That's when this stuff comes and puts it all right back. But it's been pretty good. Not too bad.
Hey, Jason and Pastor Larry.
Larry, Pastor Larry.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I say, it's supposed to be crap weather for the next day or two. And central Minnesota is supposed to get 18 to 24 inches of snow.
Yeah.
You can have it.
And I think all
Hey,
above the Great
Brian.
Lakes area.
There's Brian from Colorado. But so that's where I'm at. I went out there yesterday or day before, and I got some nukes out there for replacements of the dead outs and pollen patties and like one of the guys was asking me about did I have Doug, I guess it was Lug Longman up in Canada. I do have sugar water one, like about a 1-1, maybe a little bit less than 1-to-1 on there in quart jars, enclosed inside the hive. And I've had it on there for I guess a week or so, and they suck down, I don't know, 3/4 of a quart.
And sold 5 pounds of honey today.
Oh yeah,
so it wasn't bad.
Today I didn't sell anything. But anyway, tomorrow I'm sure I won't sell anything. And so they've been taking the sugar water down, and hopefully that will boost them up, maybe get them in the 10 frame a little faster, a little stronger, that kind of stuff.
Tom, you can say it out loud. You don't have to type it in.
I'm not allowed to say a whole lot yet, but two people will be testing it this spring, this summer. So hopefully in different climates around the United States. And hopefully the results come out positive, and then I can say something.
Now, is there this product or this method, I'll say, is it being tested by science people or something, or colleges, or like that type of stuff?
Not yet. They want a little bit more data in a specific form, so that's what I'm doing this year. But if it works out in all the environments that I got it in, I'm just going to go ahead and start making it up for sale and getting ready.
Well, you better patent it.
Yeah, I know.
I've seen so many people out there that didn't do that kind of stuff. And like the Sawmill that I have, the guy basically before the guy right here in Pennsylvania, close to my house, he come up with the idea of the automatic carriage where it was push button. Everything moved by air cylinders and stuff like that. And he took it to, I don't know when this was. I'll say in the 50s, maybe. I guess it was more so in the 60s. Anyway, he took it to the local farm show, and here's Frick Company, which was a major sawmill company at the time, and they were taking pictures like crazy. Well, it was like somebody inventing the wheel, and then after you get invented it, oh, I can do this with it and that with it, or make different modifications. He wound out suing the company, and only thing that they had to pay him was the automatic set works that made everything work as far as pushing the board out automatically at 1 inch to cut it or whatever. They had to buy that for 10 years from him. And after that, they could say, see you later.
Right.
And that's it might cost you some money for sure.
Yeah, I've done one patent in my life, so I know the process.
All right. So anyway. So what's else? I seen you did a live today or something.
Yeah, Brad did a live from the wood shop there, and was working on some lids, migratory covers. So he was showing people how he does that and what his thoughts are behind that. And I talked about the Swarm Rustler Champion of the Year award that I've put up. So it'll be interesting. Last year, a lot of people tagged me, so trying to get some of my distributors on board with it, and obviously all the no lifers to get them in, and just try to have some fun with it, right? Help build the brand, show some exposure, and the winner, whoever has the most swarms at the end of the season, which I have to wait till late in the year because season moves up, right, as it gets warmer.
Right.
They'll get a nice championship ring and a display box for it. It's a little display you set on your table and then turn around and have their name and everything on it, that they were champion of the year. So just a nice little gift. It probably won't fit anybody's fingers, but I've already ordered the ring. I'm just waiting on ordering the case until we know who the winner is. And then we'll get that made up for them and get us out.
I just want to say hi to Brad and James that popped in. What's that?
I only got 8 traps out, so then I'll probably catch 7 or 8. Well, I usually catch a swarm in every box, but one box is new, so I'll catch 7 swarms, probably, maybe 8. But there's some people out there that catch 20 or 30.
Yeah, I see where Todd.
A lot of people that catch, like I see a lot of people that are catching a lot. They catch a lot of swarms, but they're not using my lure. And secondly, they're not turning pictures and tags with my lure in it. So that's like the qualification,
That's
right?
true.
So it gives everybody a decent chance to win. We'll say that. But it's a pretty cool looking little
I
rig.
used the Swarm Rustler 100% this year.
Let's see. I think I can blow this up. So this is what it's going to look like, guys.
Is that a ring?
It is a championship ring, yes. But it's more of a decorative thing, unless you just happen to have a size 12 finger, because that's what they come in, size 12. But it goes on a nice little base that turns around. Be something cool to sit on your desk or, on your shelf behind you or something, just for bragging rights. But it's just a neat little thing. It was either that or a wrestling championship belt, and I think that was a little over the top. So we went with the ring.
Welcome to the NFL swarm lore.
Yep.
There you go.
Hey, Nature Sweet Bees, and say hey, Danette and Darren and Melissa, Robert and Keith and Roy. Everybody, good to see y'all. Hey, Lee and Tim and Hannah. And then Todd, he's going out to pick a swarm up.
Yeah.
He says pick it up off the ground. What's he got, the box on the ground, I guess?
Yeah, he caught it at
Yeah, he had a video. He got it at lunchtime. It was on the ground. The swarm was. So he did the right thing. He found the queen, put the queen in a clip, put the clip in the box. So I'm sure they all went in.
Yeah. Hey, Brian. So anyway, that's what's been happening here. Like I say, it's been kind of windy too. Hey there, Lynn.
Can't even really go check. Like I made that one split this last week, but I can't even really go look in it because it's been rainy and cool. So
I went out there and filled them juice jars up, and I got to thinking about it. I only had about 3 pollen patties left. I thought maybe cutting them in half and throwing them in there, but the maple trees here are in full bloom. Of course, they're not flying out there now to get any of it, but I figured, they were hitting the pollen patties, pretty much finishing them up, basically. And I figured, well, I just put the rest of them in the freezer for now, for next year, or probably for late summer. Seems like they hit them pretty good late summer too.
Yeah, when they get that little dearth.
Get that dearth in there and all that stuff. They were talking about that on the other chat that I was just on, and the one gal was going to put some on now, and I'm like, you're late. Should have had them on 3 weeks ago, but they were new folks, didn't know, and all pretty much. And they were. I left them. The one guy was going to discuss the nutrition for the bees, which a lot of new folks in that chat, and they were talking about the.
I forgot I'm on your channel again, Charlie. So I just answered a comment with as Charlie. Sorry, that was me.
Yeah, that's fine. What's that? What's it? Last 2?
Yeah, someone asked how long. Richard Biner asked how long should it last. I should at least 2 years, but just shake it good before you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, what he brought up was, and it's a good reference for folks that don't know, is the Honeybee Health Coalition. You can download that booklet. It's multi-pages. It talks about I don't know, maybe we can, Bob, can you pop that up? I don't know what most people
Which
know
one
about
is it?
that. Called the Honeybee Health Coalition. It has a nutritional guide and treatment guide, and it's a booklet that everybody can download. And
All right, where's it at? Hive management, habitat
yeah, I
nutrition.
think that's it. Hive management.
Additional resources, probably. Structural nutritional resources. This CDN planting guide, OSU webinar series.
That ain't not it.
Manual for honeybee health.
The National Honeybee Health Coalition. Is that what that's what you're looking at, right?
Yep. honeybeehealthcoalition.org. Disease management, resources. Bee Informed Partnership.
Maybe that one's it.
I don't see any. It's archive. Publications, maybe. Commercial field guide, table of contents. Commercial field guide, 15-page sample. Disease manual, table of contents. Disease manual, 8-page sample.
This is not where it's supposed to. I'm looking at it. I'm trying to find it too.
Let's see. Research and product testing. Emergency response kit, diagnostic kit, test kit. Let's see, be informed.
There it is.
Found it?
Yeah, it's Honeybee Health Coalition. Okay. How do I share this stupid thing?
You click to present on the bottom.
I can't even see that.
It's right in between settings and invite where it says present.
You hit video files.
Is it a video you're trying to present? Share screen.
Share screen.
And then give you.
There it is. Can you see it?
Honeybee nutrition. Yep.
Now, do you see it as a full-blown page?
Yep. see just what you got on the screen there.
All right. Well, like, who's in here doing the back
Tom.
handling now? We got stuff about carbohydrates, supplemental feeding. Right here is all the essential amino acids that are required in your pollen, but none of the one single pollen has all these in it yet. That's why the bees are always trying to get multiple different types of pollen in order to get I'll say a balanced meal for themselves. And then we get into carbohydrates and it'll get into pollen substitutes and how to feed. Here's a breakdown of what, as far as like global patties, 15%. You got crude pollen. That's on the label, is 15%. It's 9% there, Here's what Nobby had was the global 4%. Tells you all the breakdowns of everything.
Says AP23's got 47% crude protein.
That's what it says, AP23 pollen sub.
That's from Dadant, right?
Yeah, that's the Dadant. Does not contain pollen. So that means it's what? I'm not quite sure what crude protein is. It's I guess it's just more or less different products that people put in. Then you got brood builder dry, which is 26%.
Contains soybeans and yeast. That's the one that I used this year, that Ultra B Plus patty with natural pollen.
Where was that? Which one is that?
It's the next little page down.
Man Lake.
Yeah.
Doesn't that have the
No, that it doesn't have the apis in it, not that one. The apis with the one with the apis in it came out after I had bought that at the show in Mississippi. So
like you got crude
Mega B,
38% of Mega B.
Ultra B high protein pollen substitute dry, 58%.
I guess that's I get Ultra B. I get the powder. That's the powder stuff.
But see, the regular Ultra B is 18%, it says. And then the high protein pollen, I didn't see that one. Oh, that must be with the rocket fuel. The patties and amino acids, vitamins, lipids, mineral, and high fructose corn syrup.
I guess so.
Interesting.
But it gives you a lot of information here. They talk about how to feed. You got the sugar supplements. You got Boardman feeders and barrel feeders and hive top feeders, and there's your granulated mountain camp stuff, and you got your division board feeders and plastic, reusable baggies and stuff like that. And they got pictures to show everything. I wouldn't buy that Boardman feeder. I wouldn't even think about that. And then you got probiotics. Now, this was quite interesting. What was it? See, where was it? Was it when you had your talk?
The strong microbials when they're talking.
Oh, it was last night on Greater Baltimore Beekeepers. We had the guy from the Bee Lab there. He writes in the magazine, in the bee magazines, Jay somebody. And they just came out with a study, and I'm talking within only the last month of this year. And remember we were talking about super microbials and all that stuff. Bob,
Yep.
and about where what was his name, up in Pennsylvania there, who's the guy that's got these chat channel, shoot, always been on this stream team and all that garbage. Frederick Dunn. Anyway, I watched his program about super microbials, and there really wasn't any scientific documentation made up on it at all. And this, I'll say Jay North. I can't remember what his name.
Jay Evans is what they said.
Jay Evans. He brought out his. It was Jay Evans, and he's down here at the Beltsville Bee Lab, and he brought up the paper. It's on the scientific news literature thing. Anyway, bottom line, it doesn't do anything. There's no proof or evidence they found. Well, it doesn't help, and it doesn't no detriment, no negative or positive outlooks of it, what they found.
How long did they study for, did they say?
I don't know. I can't remember that. It's at least a year or so, and I forget how many hives they did, a couple thousand hives or something like that. But that was one of the little keynote things that he talked about, that it really wasn't, as far as what they could find and the different, it wasn't actually his department, but somebody else was looking into all this stuff. It here's another thing for like spring buildup. You've got you want to start a hive package or a package of bees out. This is the general just suggestions for carbohydrate feeding, spring buildup, summer colony maintenance, fall colony maintenance, winter colony management. So it's a nice little article here, or multi-page thing. Here's interesting. It's a table summary, the brief summary of the impacts of commercial diet on honeybees, and different peer reviews, research articles when compared with sugar syrup and pollen, indicates a number of relative results and stuff.
Basically, it's saying that they had one B pro, 1 positive, 6 negative, and 11 neutral.
There's no change in adult bee population, honey production, or brood production. And we got global patties, no change in brood production, no change in adult bee pollination population.
So they're basically saying pollen sub doesn't do anything for them.
That's what it sounds like to me. Of course, I would, here's some different soybean meal, sucrose, skim milk powder, yeast, and water. Increased in adult bee population honey production.
It's pretty interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's got, I'm sure that everybody's going to have some different results and things. There is another one here. Let me go back to the table of contents. This is the nutrition guide. Okay. And you can go to, I guess we can I'll put this in the chat. Anybody wants to go to it, and you can download this. It's a PDF. Let's see how we can do this. I guess over here, paste. And there's the
Brian just put it up.
Okay. And there's another one for Varroa mite treatments and stuff. It's pretty much it's Are you back, Tom? I don't know how you got out. What'd you
I
do?
don't know
Drop?
either.
Well, I might have hit something.
I
Anyway,
think I did.
there's some different. Hey, Jason, good to see you. Thanks for the tip, as I'll call it.
The super chat.
Yeah. Um.
They didn't live in boxes, Brian.
Yeah, I just bookmarked that site, so I'll read it tomorrow probably. Since tomorrow's a non-bee day.
Now here's another one. Let me. This is from the same area, and this is about. Um, this is tools for Varroa mite treatment, and same type of format. Um, about the different types of treatments and when to use the treatments, and this is a very good guide. You got IPM, as far as interbase space management, talks about samples, 3 mites per 100 adult bees, which most everybody kind of knows that. And there's your grafting as far as the population and the peak of the mite population and things of that nature. And then, of course, they're doing a sugar roll test, which most people don't. And what I kind of liked about this, let's see. We have the different population increase. You got Apriguard, mite away quick strips, drone removal, all these different things. And then you talk about, it gets into the, so, here's for Apriguard. It gives it the name, the ingredients, the formulation, how it's treats and things like that, and time of the year, and results and things. And it gives it for every, here's Apistan, which nobody really uses anymore. Checkmite, nobody uses hardly. Here's Apriguard, Apolife Var, which is a thymol and camphor. Mite away quick.
Showing it, Charlie.
Huh?
There, now you're showing it.
What's that?
You didn't have it added to the screen. I added it up.
Oh.
You're reading it, but nobody can see it.
Oh, sorry about that. I didn't realize that. Oh, here's, like I say, in each area you have your acids. You've got your mite away quick strips. So you got your oxalic acid. It goes through each medication, as I'll call it, and tells you about it and everything. And here you have HopGuard, your typical screen bottom board, which it's only really good for about 12% reduction in mites and stuff. They thought it was bigger when it first came out. And drone brood removal. It just goes on and on. Another good PDF that you can take a look at, give you some information and all that. I'll go ahead and put that in chat over here. And that's for the Varroa mite. So there's a few good things through the Honeybee Health Coalition. And so if anybody, wants to read up on all that stuff, I'm not sure whether the one for Varroa is, it's up to about 2015. So there's a lot of stuff that's been changing on that. But the nutrition one is 2014. So that's, some of the stuff we went over last night. But it was interesting about the stuff that we had talked about between me and Bob about whether this stuff was really wasn't any affirmative studies about it.
Well, there's actually a good study by Dr. Robin Underwood that I got to watch the presentation when I was up in Canada, and they did a 3-year study, and she's in Pennsylvania, and
she's up at Penn State.
And they did a 3-year study with treatment-free. I think they called it synthetic treatments and, I guess just not really organic, but just a more non-synthetic, right? Non-chemical, essential oils, all that kind of stuff. And there was really not a difference, a measurable difference between using synthetic products in your colony or using natural products in your colony for mite control. And I mean, it was really pretty amazing. So I was surprised that they have all of these products that are marketed as mite treatments that are not any more effective at killing mites than natural treatments are. So it leads you to believe, why do we spend so much money on stuff, right? That's really not any more effective. Right now, obviously, oxalic acid is natural. It's not a synthetic. But then when you go to like amatraz, right? That's synthetic. So
just synthetic.
So it's, but you know, it's kind of like, I'm not trying to do a conspiracy theory here, but there's a reason why they haven't found a cure for it yet, right? I mean, there's money in the treatments.
I've heard that same theory about cancer too.
Yeah. So I'm not trying to, discredit anybody or anything, but the fact is these universities and schools get paid grants to study this stuff. That is a money flow that comes in. And yes, they're testing things and they're, I guess, doing the best they can with stuff. But but after talking to several of them, they definitely understood my point of view on it. I wasn't being like combative with them, but after treating it for so long with all these different chemicals, and they really can't give you a noticeable decline. I mean, oxalic acid vaporization kills for 3 days. 3 days. After that, I mean, it's just on the incline again, right? So it's like, what do you do? But unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with right now, is that there's not a silver bullet out there to really deal with it. And, I don't know if they will find it.
Well, the biggest thing that since I got into beekeeping, and I'll say the biggest turnaround has been when Dr. Sammy Ramsey. Now, Sammy came to my bee club about 3 or 4 months before he became a PhD. And I seen him about a year prior to that at another club. That's how I first met him. He was he won't say a student, but he was, running for his PhD. And that's when he came out and said, hey, you're all wrong. This Varroa mite's attacking the fat body instead of sucking the hemoglobin out of the blood. And of course, the powers to be science folks at the time said, well, you're all wrong. You don't know what you're talking about. We've been telling this story for 30 years. And so he his boss was at our club meeting prior. He was, Bang Ingelsdorf, who's the science, the science laboratory was named after, who actually, he originally was up in Penn State when CCD started coming around. And so anyway, basically his 3 answers were to all the people's questions. I don't know. It might be this and it may be that. and that was it. And then you had Sammy come in, I'll say several years later, and he's one of them kind of guys that he can sit there and talk to science, to a science level, whatever level you want, or he can bring it down to your level to make you understand what he's trying to say. He's very good at that. And he was the first guy that he actually had pictures. He got hooked up with the folks down at Maryland here where they had the electron microscopes where they could take pictures and make videos and things of that nature. And he said, this is what you're up against. This is the picture of the thing that you're trying to kill. And he did studies like, okay, 90% of the time it's on the left-hand side of the bee, it's on the belly of the bee, and it's always at this platelet. And I didn't understand that bees actually have platelets like suits of armor where they lap over each other. And everybody was talking about getting the bee to groom the mite off. Well, they can't groom the mite off because it's up in this platelet in there, and also the mite is rounded, and with their legs, they feels like it's their own body when they're trying to brush it off. So he kind of busted those kind of myths that night. And then he said they say, it's not eating us. Well, actually he put some dye in the fat bodies, and you could see because this thing was translucent, I'll say, where you could see, I guess it was being x-rayed, I guess. But anyway, you could see the fluid going through this mite. And he proved all those different things. And then, I mean, one of the most things was, he says, okay, your bees were fine and they did this and you treated in September. And at the time, you only did one treatment at the time. And he says, by March, they're dead, right? And he says, and I said, we all said, we're sitting there nodding our heads. Yep, you're right. Exactly. He said, well, you all treated too late. He said, you should have treated back in June or July. And, because you said what you had was like cancer patients going through the winter, and they fought and fought and fought. And by March, they all gave up and died. And he said, you need to get rid of the sick bees and get healthy brood bees by October in order to get through the winter time. And, his talk like that was like, okay, now we understand what you're talking about. And after that night, I completely changed my treatment program. And of course, I've since even tweaked it even more. And, but then he's started coming out, and finally he proved to the powers of the bee and the science community that he was right. And then he told Van Agelsdorf, he says, I want to try to get this mite to hatch an egg in the laboratory. So and he told him, he says, you're going to not get your PhD because you're going to fail, because everybody for the last 20 years have tried to do this and has failed across the world, literally. And so, everybody else fed blood or hemoglobin to the mite, and that's not what they were wanting to eat. So he made placebos with fat body in like a gel cap, basically. And somehow he took saran wrap and pulled it tight enough to where it was like almost like one cell thickness, to try to represent what the bee has. And 90% of the time that Varroa mite was going over there, sticking its fang into that gel cap full of fat body material. And so anyway, he set up through these guys. They were helping him out with the electron microscopes and filming. He put time-lapse photography on it. And then I think it's every 30 hours, the mite lays an egg. And he went in there, and they seen this blip on the screen the next morning. And then they zoomed in it with their microscopes, and here it was. The Varroa mite had laid an egg. And once that happened, then it went around the world literally that, hey, this guy did what nobody else could do. And all his hypothesis, I guess you would call it, or evidence of what he brought up must be absolutely true. And now he's on top of the world. And I think he's out in Washington State. I believe he's got his own laboratory out there now, and all. So then, in the meantime, he has went over to over to Taiwan, where there's a triple laps mite, which is even 10 times worse than the Varroa. Hopefully, we never see it, but he says it'll probably be here in the next 10 to 20 years. I'll be out of the beekeeping by that time, hopefully. So Hanley, what's happening?
Not much, just soaking up the information.
Right.
We had a nice day today, got up to 48, and all
Did
the
it?
sheep were flying, so I went back out to a couple out yards, and I had 2 more dead out, so now I'm up to 3. But those both look like it was starvation. That's one of our biggest problems here in March, is starvation. Unless you feed a lot, and I don't.
Well, that's the problem. You need to feed.
Yeah, I know. I know I need to.
And there's a lot of different ways of doing that. As far as I know, for me, I'm a fall feeder, and I don't do anything through the wintertime. And I make sure they have enough food that they get through. And then there's other folks that kind of like they feed a little bit of sugar water in the fall, and then they kind of like feed throughout the winter, with either sugar bricks or candy boards and things of that nature. They do it that way. I did the candy boards one year, and it was like, okay, you spent all day cooking this stuff like in a witch's brew kettle, boiling liquid sugar, and then you pour it into these forms, and and it hardens up, and then you're supposed to put them on out there in, I think, right around Christmas time, and put a queen excluder on, I think it was, because they'll make little trails through that stuff, and the queen might get up in there, and you might lose her because of that. But I did it one time. That was a lot of work.
Yeah, I used to do that every year. I used to put candy boards on all my colonies, and I kind of got away from feeding about the same time I kind of got away from treating. But when you're running single deeps, it's hard to get a single deep through sometimes if you have a real mild winter, just because they go through so much of their stores. And that was what I found today. It was a single nuke and a single 10 frame.
Yeah.
Yeah, that happens.
Okay. Yeah, I just got a text here from Brian Flower Street there. Yeah, I remember that he was stating he had got to meet Dr. Ramsey and in the laboratory, that he's been sort of like volunteering and everything, which is a lot of good experience there and all. But I went back to what I know. I'll say easier for me. At least I feel it's easier for me. Is I have a 55-gallon drum with a burner underneath of it, and I heat my water up, and I dump my my crystal or granulated sugar water, and I take and cook it and let it cool down, and I have a 40-gallon tank with a pump on it and all, and I got it electrified, and all I got to do is turn the electric on and pump it off.
Well, that's what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm digging out all my old feeders tomorrow, and I'm going to go around and try to get some feeders on some of these colonies. But we have snow coming in tonight, and so the next 10 days, it's anywhere from the high 20s to 60 degrees, just up and down. So
Yeah.
I'm going to have to pick a day that I can get out there and throw some feed on them.
Yeah. I want to say hi to Chris, the bug man. So, Jason, where's Corey speaking at in Delaware? Up at the University of Delaware? Or maybe the Delaware Bee Club of some sort. I know there's like 3 of them in Delaware.
Tried that mountain camp method, I think 1 year. And I just found that the bees would either consume it or they would break it up and it'd be sitting all in front of the hive.
Yeah,
Or down the bottom of the hive, right? So it's like, are they eating it or just trying to get it out of there? So
yeah. I found out when I did that, when I tried doing it dry, it seemed like they were trying to remove most of it.
Yeah. Well, did you put any vinegar in it when you mixed it with your mountain camp?
I put apple cider vinegar in all my sugar.
Okay.
Just because the first year I didn't, and I didn't realize how fast that molded. Then I found out put vinegar in there and it helps out quite a bit.
Well, the vinegar actually makes it acidotic to where bees like it acidotic. They won't. If it isn't, they carry it out the front door as trash. It seems like from what I've read and heard, and all that. I mean, I'm not a big mountain cat person. I don't know. It just I want it to go liquid and get it in those cells so they can store it and stuff. So, Jason, are you going to the Delaware annual meeting to see Corey? So, but
He said yes.
Yeah. I
That
wouldn't
was
mind.
good.
Wouldn't mind going to that, but I didn't know nothing about it at the time. Of course, Jason's over there close to Delaware.
Right. Almost his backyard, close to it.
Yeah, Jason lives pretty close to the everything.
Yeah. That's just like the North of Bear and Honey Naba. That's semi close to me. Yeah, that's another thing. Louisville today was 59 degrees. Cincinnati was 48 degrees, 49 degrees. I mean, that's not that much difference.
Yeah, the bug man had 2 swarms so far.
Wow.
I can't wait for swarm season.
everybody trying to win the ring. Got to win the ring.
I know.
Got to bring home the championship.
I know, but you let the dirt rooster play too.
Well, hey, he's got the same rules.
Him and Mr. Ed should have been disqualified right from the start.
Well, keep in mind,
Cutouts.
they haven't sent any pictures or anything with them using the lure, so to catch one.
Okay. I got to buy some of the lure first.
Yeah, that's the start right there.
Yeah.
Have you done any washes, Bob?
No, I haven't. Not since I did one at the end of the season. I will tell you that box did get a second hive body on it week and a half ago, I think.
Right.
And it is growing, and it had about six frames of brood in there. So she's alive, and it still has Appy tablet on it. Had Appy tablet on it the whole time. So it's alive. That's the main thing. So we'll see how it goes. But being an all-natural supplement / treatment, as long as they're alive, I'm doing good, right? So we'll work with that. But I will do one. I'm just waiting on the numbers to get up to where it makes sense. I don't want to, as they're trying to build up a weak colony, I don't want to be taking 300 bees out of it to do a wash, but I will.
So Nature's Sweet Bees, do you have a website or a YouTube site?
And I went back on my word there, Charlie, about ordering stuff.
Ordering what? What'd you order? Packages?
Ordered migratory covers, wax dip migratory covers. So
From where? From Faith Apiaries?
no. Actually, the Mark's going to bring them down from Virginia with him when he comes.
So why, expanding or something? Or are you getting rid of the tellies or what?
Replacing other crappy ones that I bought from Man Lake and stuff like that. And trying to work them in. I'm not going to totally trash the ones that I've got, but a lot of them are bowed and looking kind of heinous. So
are you gonna switch over to all migratory lids?
I've got pretty much all migratory lids right now, but yeah, the ones that I bought from different places, there's no consistency in how they're built, and they're just bow and warp even after they've been painted and treated and everything, and they're just junk. Yeah. So I'm just trying to replace them with something better, and I ain't got time to make no lids, unfortunately, and I don't have all the equipment that it would take. I mean, I've got a table saw, and that's about it.
Yeah, we bought an old beekeeper out that was retired, and we got, I don't know, I think back when we did it, we got 14 colonies from him, but a lot of those colonies had like the nylon telescopic lids on them.
Right.
Man, those things are nice.
Yeah.
I do like those things.
I have one. I wish I had more.
Yeah. Now you don't want to leave a hot smoker sit on one too long because
melt right through it.
it will it will definitely melt it. But those are nice. You don't have to worry about them rotting. And
let me see.
So how's Doug doing?
I'm getting grouchy here, Charlie.
Getting grouchy.
Getting tired.
Yeah, he's got that melter like Ian's got. That looks like a fine looking machine.
Yeah, we'll give it a workout. We're not getting spring here. I'm getting tired of this weather.
Yeah, that's kind of the way we are too. We don't have the snow, but we don't have the warmth. You know, we do get a day here and a day there, and then, you know, kind of a teaser.
You don't have -20 tonight either.
No, it don't. -20, you say?
Yeah.
That's a -4 Fahrenheit for everybody else listening in.
No, you can keep that.
Yeah. Yeah. I know James, I was watching some of his little clips there, and I think it said, what was it, a -13? And that's like 8.5 degrees Fahrenheit, which is not very warm at all.
Yeah, we don't have a plus temperature for the next week yet.
Well, I saw James over there. He's kind of hoping he made a right decision because they got a cold snap through Alberta there, and he was not by his short he put out. He wasn't sounding too promising. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of rain, Chris, right now. Not a lot though.
I think James will be all right. He's got some pretty strong hives there.
I don't know. He said, well, of course it was cold. They weren't flying, but he said he wasn't also going to get into them and look at them either. He pulled some pails up, and there was a few little bees kind of crawling around, but nothing like, you know, a big handful there. But
yeah,
looks like we might have some competition tonight. I seen where Cayman's going to come on tonight, something like that.
He's not on his channel. He's on that kid from Alaska, Eichmann or Reindeer Bees, whatever. They had like 40 people watching the channel with Cayman on it. That's a poor turnout. But yeah, he is. I mean, they were live right now. I don't know if they still are.
So, Nature Sweet Bees, are you He must be up in Canada then. He's in Ontario. I looked his Facebook page up. Looks pretty good size. Here comes JW. You there, JW?
Yeah, I'm trying to get on there if things will hold together.
Okay. Hanley says it's 38 and snowing. I'm not sure exactly where Hanley is located.
I'm in northern Indiana.
Oh, okay. That's right. Okay. Duh. I got you on my list here. I just hadn't put you in the regular thing yet.
The phone says it's 44 raining.
Yeah, nature's. And what's your first name? So I know what to call you besides Nature's Sweet Peas. He's next to New York, Ontario, and Quebec border there. He must be close to Alex's house. And maybe Alex could come over and visit you.
What's this?
Corey, okay.
Yeah, there's rain.
Yes.
45 minutes to Montreal. Oh, he's from Maine, not Alaska. I gotcha.
Ontario.
And Alex is 45 minutes north of Montreal.
Well, Alex can get in that little car of his and zoom right down there. Right, Alex? See there, Alex? I'm trying to hook you up with another fellow beekeeper. You guys can work together.
Zoom. Yeah.
Maybe he can sell your honey for you.
Man, 15 minutes.
He's north of Cornwall. Is that Ontario or something or what?
Montreal.
Montreal. Is Montreal a separate area, Doug? I mean, there's Quebec.
Montreal's a big city in Quebec.
All right, all right. So Corey lives in Quebec then?
And it's Cornwall, Ontario, I think is what he's saying.
Ontario.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like JW's having some technical issues.
Oh, you did pop out again.
Either that, he's already bored with it.
So basically, there's Quebec and there's Ontario and there's Saskatchewan. And,
We got Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC going west.
Okay. Yeah, the reindeer guy. I've listened to some of his. He's back again. You there again, Aaron?
I don't know what's going on.
What are you having, a tornado out there or something?
Just
I have to watch the weather. They're not saying anything, but that cold front and that storm that you were talking about, Charlie, is coming right up and meeting right in the Ohio Valley. Looks like in a couple hours.
Right.
It's coming up from the southeast, and that's coming from the northwest.
Yeah, well, where you're at, you're getting the one coming across the top of the country, and then we're getting the one coming out of the bottom and coming up the East Coast.
Well, right now I'm getting the East Coast one from the bottom. Yeah. And then the one from the north is coming down at the same time. That's usually not a good combination.
So, Doug, you got a new melting machine. You're going to get that all put in, established. And so what did you have prior to that?
We got a smaller Maxon melting. machine.
Was Maxent, did you say?
Yeah,
Okay.
but we got a lot of frames and stuff to melt down, so we'll make use of this for this year. Do an awful lot of melting.
Right. And all that. So that's good. And then, of course, you get, has your snow ever went away yet?
No, cheaper to ship blocks of wax too. Like in the past, we've always just sold wax by the barrel, and
Right.
this way we'll be able to cut back on the expense of shipping quite a bit.
So are you going to do kind of like what Ian does as far as like those little totes of wax?
Yeah, that's what we do now.
Is that what you do now, you say?
To a certain extent, yeah.
So
But
it's
we have too much wax for the Maxent, so a lot of the time. We used to have a place, McGregor, Manitoba, would buy the wax and buy the barrel, and that's where we pick up all our woodenware. So it was good to make a trip. You could deliver your wax, pick up your woodenware, and come back. But that wax place went out of business, so now we have a different place, and we'd have to make 2 trips instead of 1.
Russell wants to know what the heat source is. Well, I'm sure it's water jacketed. I do know that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's 220 volt and it's water jacketed.
Yeah, and then it has that center column in the middle there where it gives it heat in the center of the mixture, along with the outside and the bottom, I presume.
Yeah, it's supposed to circulate through there.
Well, I think maybe I'm on here now where I can talk. Am I coming in okay?
Yeah, you're sounding good.
I don't know what's going on. I'm not computer literate too much, so I don't know. Everything was on delay. I was way behind you all, and then I was getting double speech and the whole bit, so I don't know what was going on. Am I current now? And can you hear me okay when I speak?
Oh, yeah, you're fine.
I'll
Sound good for you.
Installed 16 packages today. And
installed them?
Lit 11 hives. Started at 7 this morning and finished at 6 this evening. So I've got a Mite that I installed 10 for, and I install. I get packages every year, a few. I'm a believer in. I'm crazy as I may be, being an old purebred cattle business or breeder. I think drones are very important, and I buy new packages every year to get different drones. I may be crazy, but it seems to work for me. So that's what I've been doing all day today, and the old man just about pooped it out.
Well, so are you replacing some dead outs with those packages, or are you expanding your situation?
No, I'm expanding. I'm building in my own personal stuff. My mentee is just kind of getting started and expanding their apiary. It's a young lady, 32 years old, and I help her quite a bit. And I helped her, or showed her how to install 10 packages. She'd never installed a package. She's operated strictly off of wall swarms, feral swarms, and she wanted some more colonies. So she bought 10 packages, and I helped her install those today. And then I installed 3 in a different drone yard that I'm building for myself. But I like to get different genetics. I may be wrong, but I think drones are just important as. A lot of people buy queens, but I like to get out crosses for drones.
Well, are you putting in like drone frames to kind of help?
Yes. Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Did you have any problems with?
I put a drone frame in every new package.
Yeah, Flower Street. He bought 200 pounds from down there at Bob of wax. But do you have any problems getting those bees to draw your wax out on your drone frames, or they do that pretty good?
Well, I wax the heck out of the drone frames too, Charlie.
Okay.
When I put them in there, I mean, I load them up. And I don't seem to have too much trouble. I won't say never. You know, you never say never in the bee world, but I won't say never.
I will. I can never get them to draw out that green frame.
Okay.
I can never get them. That's all I'm saying. But it's
Well,
probably a beekeeping error, like it is on everything else that I do wrong.
Well,
Yeah,
you're probably correct, Bob. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I've kind of learned, or I feel like I've kind of learned to never say never about anything in the bee world, because they'll dang sure make a liar.
Yeah, this is my friend Brian here. He's about an hour from me, I guess, maybe an hour and a half, and he puts 2 drone frames in every breeder hive, and he's trying to become a commercial beekeeper.
Mhm.
He's getting
Does
close
he
to
use it for production drones, or does he use it for IPM management? You know.
No, he's doing queen rearing and things like that. So you got to have the
Sure.
drones out there for that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do too. But I'm trying to do it on a more natural basis. I don't say I don't graft, but I might be getting to the age I might be starting to have a little bit of an eye problem. Nothing serious now, boys. I want you to know that they're getting a little harder to see every
5
year.
out of 6 of us are wearing glasses right now.
I've been blind for
good,
years.
JW. You're doing good.
Well, I don't know. I stick on some. I call them Wally World readers, but I'm up to about 2.5, 3 power now. So
Yeah, I used to use the drugstore readers and all that, and then I would lose them and they'd fall out of my pockets. And I just went to my eye doctor one. I said, "All right, I'm done with that. Can we just use regular glasses and with like bifocal type things underneath?" And he said, "Well, I've been waiting for you to ask that." So after that, we just went to regular, wearing glasses all the time.
Maybe that's what I'll do tomorrow. I'll wax up some frames. That's a good wet weather activity.
Yeah, I got some wax here. Maybe that's what I've got some green frames, like you say. I put them in, and they really didn't do a whole lot with them. And like you said, maybe they just didn't really
It might be better to cut out the green frame inside of there and just use the top part as a starter strip and wax that and let them just build whatever they want.
Yeah, that's true.
I waxed 80 last night while y'all were talking on horizontal bees there. I was waxing. That's what I was doing. I waxed 80 frames last night.
Yeah. What was Bob? What's that frame that Brad has? It's called story frame.
Story frame. He just takes the foundation and cuts it in half, and then uses half in 2 different frames, right? And then the outside, they pretty much build drone comb in there.
And what is I know he explained it to me one other time, but I forgot. What is the purpose of that? What's it telling you?
Well, typically his hypothesis is that colonies won't produce drones until they have everything they need, right? That they're doing good and they're healthy and they're ready to swarm or reproduce. And they'll just draw those out and put drone comb in there. And, best I can understand it, that's what he does. And he just uses it as
just gives them a spot to put drones cells.
Well, I did 11 splits today using double screen boards, just split up. I didn't do any walkaway splits or anything of that nature.
What's the temperature out there right now, JW?
Right at the moment it's 50 right now. It was 61 today. And
it was? Okay.
It was this afternoon, yes.
Yeah, it's about 20 degrees warmer than what we are.
Yeah, but it's supposed to cool down. I'm a little concerned about my new my new babies, but we'll see. I've got them pretty well insulated on the tops, and hopefully they'll produce enough these packages will produce enough heat to protect that queen. I've still got them in, of course they're still in the cages, so see what happens. Wouldn't be the first 400 or 500 I've thrown away in my life, so we'll see what happens.
So true.
Huh?
Everybody's awful quiet on there.
Yeah, reading the chat.
I get those green frames filled out with comb. I don't have any issues whatsoever.
I've never had one, not one.
I heavily wax them.
Well, I thought I did that last year, but it was the first year that I actually rolled wax on waxed frames before. So maybe I just need to do it.
Only 2 times.
Now, like Corey states here, that's one thing that Brad did state, that if you have a drone, someplace for them to put drone cells, then you don't have the darn drones in between, I presume, in between the frames.
Right.
You find that, Doug, in your operation, or you do that?
We don't do that.
No.
No. We have enough drones being produced just naturally in the hives.
Yeah, it's. I'd say it'd be hard for you boys with all those colonies to mess with green frames. That's for us little guys. This hobbyist, 20, 30, 40, 50, maybe.
Well, that's where I'm at. I fall in that parameter right now. So,
Well, my biggest thing is if I can let them build the drone someplace else, and I can pop them boxes open easier. That would be a whole lot, it'll save my trying to bust them apart and stuff like that. Because a lot of times you're opening a box up and you got to go down the line with your hive tool to pop the ends of the frames apart and all.
Yeah, I don't think I've done that in 2 or 3 years now. Had one of those issues since I got drone frames in there in almost every hive.
You mean you don't get drone comb in between frames with the green the green frames in there?
Philip says,
I don't get as much, but I don't get any. So
I would almost say almost none, very, very little. And not enough to stick them between frames, maybe a little bit on the ends and the corners. That's about it.
yeah.
well, if we can cut that down, I'm going to try it this year. Like you say, I got some drone frames out there. I'll have to wax them up good.
Yeah, double, triple wax them.
You say don't?
Let's see. That worked for me a couple of years ago.
Either that or put them in a swarm. Let them draw it out. They'll draw anything.
That's true too.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, let's see what else is happening.
Well, I'm hoping to make 13 splits Sunday and Monday. And I'm going to graft again on Monday. So that'll be my second graft. 2 small ones, not my full grafts.
So, have you got your cells and an incubator, Tom?
Yeah, I got 13 of them in there out of 18. I didn't count very good. I did 9 by 9, 2 strips of 9. So I got 13 out of 18. It's pretty good for the first draft of the year.
Yeah. That's not too bad. I mean, really.
No, well,
you seem like you're having a lot more warmer weather than what we are.
Yeah, we've been right on the edge. I just talked to Greg up in Columbus, and he's got more year weather, and I'm getting a lot warmer weather. I mean, it's going to be 60s all next week, upper 50s, 60s.
Yeah, it's going to be like I'll say maybe high 50s, but there's so damn much rain coming in. Like I think Wednesday and Thursday is supposed to rain. I had planned on doing some selling on Thursday. The last time I looked at it, I'll say last week they were stating 70 degrees and sunny, and it's not even going to be close to that. It might
Well,
be,
I looked
yeah.
at the,
Go ahead.
Question
I
there
looked at,
about
oh,
drawing.
go ahead, JW.
We don't
I
do
was going to say something smart aleck anyway. Go ahead, Tom.
I looked at the 2 weeks, and we don't have any more days in the 40s. Everything's mid 50s and low 60s. So I think we're just got around the corner of no more real cold winter days after tomorrow.
yeah. All right, Doug, go ahead and answer the question there.
we don't do comb honey, but Brad, that's all he uses is medium deeps to draw his comb honey. He does lots of it. So yes, you can.
And I'm sure that when it comes to comb honey, Brad is just using what a regular frame, I
Yeah.
guess, where they're cutting it out.
Yep.
Yeah. We're going to start doing that this year with a couple hives.
Tell you what, I just strung mine up when I did do some comb honey. I just used fishing line, and then once I pulled that frame out, I would put it in the freezer, and then I would clip the fishing line and drag it right out of the center of it, and just cut it out. It worked pretty well.
All right.
Not perfect. I'm sure there's better ways, but that one worked for what I was doing.
Yeah, Brian does
Yeah.
foundationless mediums and uses the Pierce comb cutter and all. Okay, Graham.
I've got one of these Pierce queen grafting tools, and I've never used it. It's still in the box. Got it last year.
Oh, I could use one of those. That's on my list.
I'll be back.
I tried using that last year, and I couldn't get it to work at all.
Probably one of the things you just have to get used to it, right?
Yeah,
After you kill a couple frames of eggs and larvae, you'll get it figured out. That's
I use the Chinese grafting tools.
we can get 7 good 2x4s from one frame. The if the hive isn't strong enough, don't bother trying to make comb honey. Yeah, I think that's pretty much everything. You got to have it just packed full, right? I'm starting to get that. It's only taken me 6 years to understand that you got to have bees in the box to produce honey, comb honey, splits, queens. You got to have bees. So
I have lots of bees.
So that's been the thing, is that every year I focused on expansion, and to the detriment of honey production, right? So it was always split my hives, just split. And it just kept my hives just weak enough to have poor honey crops, and really not be able to build up strong enough and to have pests like excessive hive beetles and wax moths and everything else. So trying a little bit different this year. We'll see. That's what it was. It was potato chip time.
Yeah. Well, what about you're getting nukes, right?
I am getting some nukes.
Are you reselling some of them or something?
Some are going to be sold if the people that want them still come buy them. But that wasn't why I bought them. I bought them for my apiary, doing similar to what JW is doing, right, with his packages. So, however, if I can sell half of them and pay for the ones that I bought, then that's what's going to happen, right? So we'll we'll see how it goes. But right now, those 20 nukes were purchased just for my yard to try to get them built up, and maybe take some splits and, you know, have enough out of that 20 nukes to be able to do something with the 25 queens that I have coming from Jose, and just work it out that way.
Everybody's got glasses now, Bob.
Yep. JW's put his glasses on. See, all that. He was bringing smoke about the glasses wearers a minute ago. Now he's got his on.
Wally World specials.
I got so many bees. I saw a 10 frame deep, a bottom board, and a lid flying across the field.
Bob, I like to take swarms. I use swarms to beef up all my production hives. I'll shake them into a box, and then the next day I'll find a queen, take her and a brood and a food frame that I might have, or one that they might have already just put in there because they have spring so much. Put them off in a little nuke, and I take the rest of the bees and shake them in my hives. I don't even use paper; I just shake them right in.
This is going to sound kind of counterproductive for a person that makes a swarm lure, that I don't really go chasing swarms. I don't.
Right.
I bait up around my yard as insurance, and if somebody calls me saying, "Hey, I got some bees in the bushes" or something, then I'll come and get them. But I don't typically go through the woods and set up traps and stuff like that. I just try to catch my own. And for that part, I think I've been pretty good, because I usually don't get any spring swarms out of my bees. Now there's a case here with that big one, but I get after flow swarms, right? Later in the year swarms. That's when I typically get them. So the chases around the backyard. Bring them to my house, man. They'll get along great with my bees.
Shoot, I'll have some virgins next Tuesday emerging out.
I've got a couple from a little split that I did. I replaced a bottom board and saw they had some queen cells in there, and I just split them off into another box with a couple more frames of bees. And it's been too cool for me to go back in and check them. There are some bees in there because I saw them in the little round. They got the bottom they could come out, but then they got a little disc at the top they could come out, and they really like the disc at the top better. So we'll see if they do well, and if they, they were pretty nice queen cells, swarm cells, so maybe they come out. But either way, it's raining these 2 days. It could be Sunday that if it warms up that we get some swarms after the weather, after they've been in there for a few days, realizing how many bees are in the box. Maybe that's their trigger. We'll find out.
And we got a lady on where I live called Save Your Bees, and you can sign up with her, and if there's any bees in your neighborhood or semi-close, then she'll call you and you can go get them.
It seems like I've been getting more people wanting like actual removal work.
Yeah.
And I don't really have I have the ability to get them out. I don't have the want to get them out, right? Last time I went under somebody's house to get bees out for them, I took about 200 stings to my legs. It ain't happening. I'm done.
I don't have the time.
Yeah, that's the other thing. I mean,
I'll do one for a friend sometime in the real near future when it warms up a little bit more. That's it.
Yeah,
I just got to take some siding off and whatever's underneath the siding.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, most people feel like if you come and move remove bees, that you're going to just do it for free, right? And then I don't have that much free time to give back.
Right.
So
Well,
She's gonna pay me some. I'm not doing it for free, but she will get a friend discount.
right.
that's like Randy.
Usually the friend discount is twice the price because they're the ones that are going to be the biggest pain in the ass to you later on down the road. Would you say, Charlie?
Well, Randy, he does, it's a charge to get the damn bee. But what I don't like about it is if you're not into construction, it makes it harder, or they want you to, to put the wall back, I guess.
Right.
Like,
We only worry about swarms if they're hanging in the yard. We'll get them.
And if they're hanging low enough in my yard, if they're up in the tree, I just wave at them.
Yeah.
They go by, try to bait a trap. And if they come, they come. And if they don't, well, we'll just split back to the box they came out of.
We had one
I
lady
got a
that
telescope and flow in a 5-gallon bucket. I can get 40 feet.
we had one lady that had a swarm in under her cement step. It was hollow in under there. We took a look at it and told her, well, the only thing we could do is move the step to get at them, which wasn't an option. And then one of our neighbors, Brock Lesnar, he had some in
Brock Lesnar,
yeah,
the wrestler.
Yeah, yeah. And I went and looked at it. I had to tear a wall apart, and I'm not going to tear a wall apart and put it back together.
Not for Brock Lesnar. You might piss him off, and next thing you know, it's on.
Yeah.
That's a big boy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, this one's pretty easy. It's just a siding. I got to pop off. And I'm sure there's not much behind it since the bees are in that wall, outside wall.
Oh, if it's outdoors and I can get to it, I don't charge for that usually.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian wants to know, any of us do Russians. I did one Russian hive. I didn't like them.
I think mine are African.
Hmm?
I think mine are African.
At least your ground zero is.
Stuff is definitely African. But as far as Russian goes, of course, I had Italians at the time. And you kind of get used to the Italian traits. Where the Russians, they don't if there's no nectar or whatever coming in, man, they'll shut down right now. And you think you're queenless for sure. And you have to kind of get used to that. But
yeah.
I never particularly cared for Russian bees.
I got 3 Russian bees, and I'm going to slowly change my yard over to them. I like them.
Yeah.
Russians?
Yeah. Yep.
I know Gus Mitchell ran Russians, right?
I think so. You don't hear nothing about him anymore.
Well, years ago, they were supposed
to get health issues or what?
Russians years ago were supposed to be the solution to the mite problem, but that didn't really work out either.
Well, maybe the mice are actually Ukrainian.
Yeah.
Giving them all they want.
Yeah.
The you guys want to see something I ordered today?
Sure.
You guys are gonna laugh. I was gonna reveal it on a live, but this will work. All right, so don't laugh too hard, guys. I thought it was cool, so I ordered it. That's all I'm gonna say about this. A neon sign with my cowboy for the lure.
That's pretty cool.
That's cool.
So it's gonna hang right back here.
How big is it?
20 by 26. So this makes it look a lot larger than it's gonna be, but that's
not that's pretty cool, Bob. Charlie. Wow.
Whoever the hell put that up is pretty cool.
You like it?
So yeah, today was kind of that that marketing day, right? Where it's like, oh, we'll get a championship ring and we'll get a neon sign. That's what we're gonna buy. So that's
Gary wants to know whether his Caucasians, whether that's, I don't know much about Caucasians.
oh, you know what?
I have a couple of those too.
You guys are gonna get me lying to you guys today. I'm gonna tell you what. You guys are gonna get me ranting, but you know, Caucasians I've only started hearing about in the last couple years. Before that, it was Saskatraz. Last year was kind of the Russian thing, and now it's like, shit. What difference does it make? I mean, at the end of the day, what damn difference does it make? Do they put honey in the box? Is that what you're trying to do? I mean, it's, you know, I don't know that there's any difference myself, but maybe a little temperament difference. But I've got pretty much the same bees, and some of them are real pissy, and some of them aren't. So I don't know that the actual strain makes a big difference. Yeah, Brian, I didn't have any luck with the Saskatraz here either, but it could just be the temperature. You know, I don't know. Bob Binney does run some Caucasians, but I don't think that's all he runs, right?
He says he's swapping them all out to it.
Is he?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's
I grafted. My first graft was a Russian queen. The one I'm doing Monday is Caucasian queen. So I'm actually doing one of each.
Did Bob ever say why he was switching out the Caucasian? Or did he just say I'm switching the Caucasian, and then everybody's like,
said he liked them.
Caucasians?
He really liked the qualities of them.
Well, there you go.
I heard I got the longest tongue, so maybe it can get some better nectar with his flowers.
So what is the Caucasus Mountains? Where are they at? Never heard of them.
Oh, they've been around.
No, we got to
The
Google.
United States, that was the #1 bee before the Italians came in.
Caucasus Mountain Range.
Everybody had Caucasian bees
Sea and the
in
Caspian.
the early days.
Yeah.
Intersection of Asia and Europe. But it's like 5,642 meters above sea level.
I gotta go with Alex. I buy mutts.
I mean, after 1 year, you pretty much got mutts in your yard anyway if they supersede.
Well, mine get open mated by mutts from all my different genetics over the years.
Overwinter well like Carney and very gentle, more propolis for disease control.
Yeah.
I got Carney, and they didn't overwinter well for me. I think, and that's a good question for Doug there. You're a commercial. How often do you requeen, or do you have a requeening program or anything like that?
We requeen about 1 yard a year.
So do you go in there and hive tool test these queens, or do you do like Brad, where you put them in their own little nuke for little resource hives, and then do you buy mated queens from someplace up there in Canada?
Yeah, we buy mated queens every spring, and then I'll graft some queens, and we'll use them where we need to as well. But a lot of our hives requeen themselves.
So you kind of do like Ian used to do, just let them do their own natural requeening.
A lot of it, yeah. Yep.
Do you use on that, Doug? How do you go about that? Do you use queen excluders, or you use double screen boards? Or how do you do your splits for the top to requeen, or however you do it?
When we're requeening,
Yeah.
we go through the yards, and then the bees that aren't producing, we just pinch them and put new ones in.
No, I meant how you go about getting them to when you do your splits, get them to requeen themselves. You don't do walkways. You don't do separate boxes, do you? You do them from.
Do it.
You do double screen boards, or you do.
No,
you,
we'll go through our stronger hives and pull out cap brood and move into a 6-frame nuke and put a queen in with them.
Okay, all right. I understand what you're saying, and I didn't know if you did your splits in the same colony, or you pull them off to the side someplace, some way.
No, and we might have, a couple of frames out of one hive, maybe 3 out of another.
Sure.
Just that's our swarm control, if you can call it. We don't really go after looking for swarm control, but that's what we do in the spring.
So you probably don't do that with your cold weather till pretty late. I mean, which would be late for, when do you do most of those splits? Like June, do you? Or?
No, probably in April.
Oh, do you really? Okay. You still don't have once it warms up, you don't have the chilly nights?
Yeah, we'll still get cold nights, but
yeah,
like I always think people worry too much about the cold. If you have decently strong hives, they'll handle the cold.
Well, I hope you're right. I just installed a bunch of packages today, and I don't know what our temp is, but it's not.
Did you give them drawn comb, JW, or you gave them foundation?
I give them both, drawn in the middle and finished up again, and actually put a little brood with them where I could,
JW, I had 3 hives fall over from high winds, break apart, and spent 6 days where it never got above 20 degrees. And every 3 of the 4 nights it got down into negative numbers. And they're at right now 3 of my best hives. The cold weather.
Yeah, I got you 49 here right now. I seen where you put that out, and I understand what you're saying. But I'm always pretty concerned about, chilling new bees, when you got queens and cages and stuff on packages. So
yeah,
I'm trying to start a new kind of a drone yard with them, these packages. So let's see how it works out.
So Doug, when you requeen, let's say a yard, are those queens in that yard, I'll say 2 years old? How long do you keep a queen on staff?
We try to keep them younger if we can, but with the numbers we've got, some of the queens probably we might be the odd hive of the 3 or 4 year old queen. If the hive is doing really well, we just leave them be.
Okay.
If they're producing bees, don't interrupt them.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm asking this. I have issues this year. I'm going to be doing some requeening. And I mean, I know Brad and different ones have talked about where they keep a queen around, let's say, for about 2 years. And after that, they want to requeen. And like you say, you might have a queen there. Well, let's say, all right, this is 2024. Let's say I requeen in the spring, or let's say this, new hive this year, and it builds up, and then it goes through the winter, and then next year it'll be, I'll say, its first year of producing honey, as far as a strong colony. Well, that queen basically is two honey cycles old. I guess you're counting a 1 year queen. I mean, I know it's a calendar year, but you're looking at brood production in the summertime more so than anything else. So do you requeen that hive after the second honey season with a new queen, even though she's doing good, or if she's doing good, you just leave her alone?
No, if she's doing good, we leave her. Going through spring, once we start putting honey supers on, if there's a hive that's not producing decently, we'll look at requeening that.
Now, producing what, honey or bees?
Bees.
All right. So if you got a spotty brood pattern, all right, that queen's out the door.
Yeah.
And all that
when we are putting our honey supers on, we want to see 2 boxes right full of bees overflowing.
And that's right out of the winter, right out of the gate in the wintertime.
Yeah, pretty well. Like our season's compressed.
Yeah, I know it is. Yeah.
Once we get into April, we're going to be unwrapping. We're going to put feed on. We're going to give them pollen if they need it. And by the end of April, we're starting to put our honey supers on, get ready for the flow.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we do mark our queens.
And that's when you check to see if the hive, if it's not a good hive, you kill that queen and replace it. Right, Doug?
What was that, Tom?
Right before you put the supers on, you do that evaluation if that queen's good or not.
Yeah.
Hive is good enough. And if it's not, if it's a failing hive, you replace that queen right then.
Yep.
Yeah.
And Charlie,
like
I'm not convinced you had queen problems last year because the amount of honey you produce, those queens did really well.
I don't know. I don't know what to.
Yeah,
I don't know what to think about it. I mean, I fed them to the point where they wouldn't take any more feed, and I've got, it's like you said about the Apis biologic. Last year they were just gangbusters, and this year even the strong ones they're good, but of course it is a little bit earlier. But and the weather's a little bit colder this year. They got a lot of population in there, a tremendous amount of population. I just haven't been able to get into them and really dig into them,
Yeah.
But what do you think then, Doug? What do you think might be a problem? You know?
I don't know, Charlie. I scratch my head. Like if all the butts are sticking out, they starved. If there's brown on the front of the hives, you've got nosoma. But after that, when they start to dwindle for no apparent reason, it's hard to diagnose. Really
well,
hard.
I mean, they're all head. I'm talking about maybe that, a fist size full of bees on one little frame, and they're all kind of clustered in a little teeny cluster. Now the rest of the frames, they were empty, but on the other hand, were they dwindling down to the point where they were being robbed out? Because all through the wintertime when they were flying, I would walk along the bees and they were flying out of them hives like crazy. But I think there must have been robber bees, robbing them and all that. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say. The only thing I can think of is I don't have a queen program. I don't know what you would call it. Queen replacement program, I guess you would call it. And it's like, all right, I got a couple hives right now. They're dwindling down. There's the queens. They're walking around on the comb. They ain't doing diddly squat. You
need to pinch it.
Huh?
You need to pinch it and get a new queen.
Oh, I know I need to pinch it, but what I'm getting at is why. They were supposed to be 23 queens. They're not 3 or 4 years old. And obviously they either got poorly mated or they were poorly raised as a larvae with lacking of nutrients in there for them to feed off of. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, it's something like that.
But for the amount of honey you produced last year, your queens had to be, doing a good job. Otherwise,
yeah, I mean, I had 12 boxes of bees there that were just, I put that Apis in there, and I'm like, my gosh, I've never seen so darn many bees. And I had 3 medium boxes. I mean, they were bees from the bottom board to the roof. And I never seen it like that before. I've always seen it where if it's 3 medium boxes, they're all in the top 2 boxes. And the bottom box was completely empty of food and bees and brood and everything else for the most part. But not last year. And I'm like, I don't know. It seemed like, okay, I wanted to repeat that same scenario this year where I've got this huge super strong hive that I can harness that energy to, to bring all this nectar in and stuff like that. And it ain't there this year for sure. So I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
That's beekeeping.
Harley, do you think you might have treated maybe too much oxalic acid? And just kept shutting them down every month?
What do you mean, the oxalic acid?
Yeah.
I don't know. I did all that same situation last year and didn't shut them down. Now,
Hmm.
now here's James. Now, James, are you requeen?
Yeah.
And this is also, it's too late to deal with a failing queen in the spring. True. My question is, James, do you requeen every year? I know we've talked about this before where if you can come on in, if you would like. I know that James has breeder queens. I know that James has been working on this queen program, I'll say, for at least 5 or 6 years of selecting, quality genetics from, having breeder queens and then taking the queens that are in his hives that he selects, the premium queens that are in his hives working and grafts also them. And James says he does it every 2 years. And that kind of stuff. And I think a lot of it is that it's just like JW talks about his cattle business. I mean, you can buy purebred cattle, like they could be purebred Holstein milk cows or purebred Angus beef cattle and stuff like that. And there's the genetics there that they, if you're in cattle business, let's say beef cattle, you're looking for the muscular conformation of that beef, and all that kind of thing. And I think we have to really think about our genetics and our queens where, we want gentleness. We want those bees to produce good amounts of honey for us. And now hygienic would be great. It's like Bob says, I'm not real. It can be developed, I guess, but I don't know whether I don't believe it's here yet. I think the biggest thing is getting the commercial beekeepers to say, okay, this is the bar you got to meet and these are the tests your bees have to meet in order to be considered hygienic. And when the commercial industry of bee breeders get to that point, then I think you're going to see a lot of betterment, a lot more betterment in our bee across the board, that we're getting and all
Charlie,
that.
the reason why I asked, I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 years ago, I read an article about oxalic acid vapor where they thought maybe that vapor was damaging the antennas on the queen bees.
I don't know.
And I never really read anything more about that. And I was like, well, maybe if you keep doing all those treatments, slowly you're you're slowly damaging the queen.
Yeah.
And it's after 2 years of it, maybe it was too much. I don't know. Just a theory.
I don't know. There's one here. Darren talked about Randy Oliver talking about queen loss percentages after certain treatments might be worth, investigating. I know like Formic Pro or formic acid in general, there's a queen issue there, but I will have, as I've stated this multiple times. It doesn't say it on the packaging, but I think humidity plays a huge part in that medication. And
Formic Pro.
if it's high humidity, it intensifies the fumigate, which in turn has a possibility of queen. They all say, "Oh, your queens were weak anyway," or well, I think that's just a cop out myself.
Yeah.
And
Well, on those Instavat fellas, that that vapor comes out of the end of that tube at supposedly 420 degrees. Excuse me. I've actually had looked at some of my hives. You know, I just drill a hole in my boxes. That's where how I apply most of my vapor. And the end of them frames, if you're right up against one, that vapor goes in there, it'll kind of burn them. I don't know if you ever noticed and melted some of your melt some of your foundation right where it hits it. So there might be something to the fact that, you know, that queen would be in the right place at the right time. It'd have to be, but you had more than one hive that had the problem you thought you had the problem with. So I don't think that would be the.
For me, I mean, I'm using a vapor gun, so
Yeah.
you know, it's going in through a 3/4 inch board, and it's just a little hole. Maybe it might be an 1/8 of an inch or a 1/4 of an inch of copper sticking in there, and
Sure.
it's blowing that smoke up in there.
How many grams?
Go ahead, Joe.
How many grams are you using, Charlie?
How many what?
Grams of acid.
About 6. I mean, I've been doing that for years.
Yeah, that's what we do too.
Really? You're not going by the label?
We don't have a label here.
You know, I'm just.
Saskatchewan's label free.
I put a white out on my label and changed it.
I'm just, you know, being sarcastic because so many people say, "Oh, you can't do that. That's illegal." But then when you talk about oxalic acid, that question comes up that you just asked, and it's like, "Oh, I'm using 6." Yeah, I know. That's what everybody does, including myself when I do it. It's however much will fit in that cap with more on top of it. That's what
well, so that's what I did was I would took a ProVap cap and I would, you know, fill the cap up and kind of round it up a little bit. So when I got this here dosing tube that ProVat came out to counteract the instant vap, I measured my stuff and I just, you know, I just put it in the caps like I always do. And I have a gram scale and it was 6 grams and all.
Well, honestly, I've never used
Tom
it before.
Melissa's getting funny too.
Don't go by what I say.
Comical.
But I don't know. I think I'm gonna do some requeening.
How do you administer your OA, Doug? How do you administer it in your apiaries?
What, with a vaporizer?
Okay.
Through the upper entrance.
Okay.
I do lower. He does upper. You know, some folks they like it. I mean, I know the smoke kind of goes down. I think.
Yeah. The acid is heavy.
So, but that's the only thing I can think of. Doug is queens. I had a queen last year, and when I talked about it, it was just walking around. I knew it wasn't mated, but at that time, I don't know what it was. The whole darn apiary just went queen droneless completely. There wasn't a drone in nowhere. Never did get mated, and I got one out there right now. I think it's queenless, and I got another one there. I see the queen. They're very poor, small group of bees, and I'm like, it's not really. If it's laying, it ain't laying much. It's just poor, I'm like, okay, it needs to get out of here.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I got one out there that's mean as shit, or it blows bees up into your face when you open it up, and they'll follow you. But it's a big strapping hive. But then that's like the Bob's talked about is when you start out with a fresh hive, fresh gear, and wax and whatever. And them bees seem to be great for the first year or two. And I'm wondering whether or not the wax is contaminated or whatever. Hey, Rodney.
You have to do that too, Charlie.
Well, if you get back to thinking about when you started beekeeping, at least for me, all the bees that I got that first year made it no problem through the first winter. They had no, I mean, they started out with 5-frame nuke, right? So that means they had 5 frames they had to build up. So it was all brand new, everything. Brand new pollen, brand new comb, brand new, nectar source stored in there. So there was nothing old. There was no apivar that was left over in there, no oxalic acid, nothing, right? They did fine. After that, treat, all kinds of stuff, and never had the same percentage. And I haven't had, I mean, just until the last couple of years, I really haven't had like a ton of bees. So that was one of the things that we just stopped and looked at, that, when's the last time, let's say prior to this year, if you had 100% this year of survival, when was the last time before that in your yard that you had 100% survive over the whole winter, right? I bet you it's pretty close to when they first got established or when you were starting, unless you've been doing this, for a long, long time. Yeah, so Larry's asking, hey, Charlie, how often do you change out your comb? So that's kind of where we were going, right?
Yeah. I really don't change it out. I mean, per se. I mean, the only thing I change out comb is thanks, Norman. Is when I'm selling nukes, my combs are not really that old, and I used to sell medium nukes, and
they're not old, but you've been using 3 different kinds of chemicals in them for the past several years, right? Mm-hmm. So maybe build up. I don't know. That's kind of what Bob Benny's conversation was not too long ago at that brunch I was at, that they were talking about how the chemicals build up in the comb, and that could have long-lasting effects. And if you're not turning that comb over,
I agree with that. But it's like, okay, what do you do? What do you use? What's Bob going to use? He said he's going to do more organic. Organic what? Are we talking oxalic acid, Formic Pro?
I know oxalic acid, right? But he's starting to go with more organic type stuff. So I don't know if that's essential oils or what he's doing. Let me see.
Going to use my treatment. Bob knows about my treatment.
What breed does Doug use? I bet you Doug is using primarily carniolans.
Probably the biggest percent, yeah.
And that's because they are more thrifty as far as stores in the wintertime, maybe?
No, the biggest thing is we have to just go with what we can get. We don't have a whole lot of choice.
Whatever you can pick up on a given year, right?
Yeah.
Now, with Corey's question here, what time of the year did it happen? Well, I'll say that I'll tell you what happened was I went out there and I said, okay, I'm going to mark my queens. So I marked them. And then I had queen problems. I've been at marking queens. I mean, I know to just dot the back and not to get the antennae messed up or anything like that. But they seemed like I had 4 of them. I think it was 4 or 5 of them that went queenless on me. And I had some queens there. So I took the nukes and I repopulated the hive. I had one hive out there was give me trouble a whole season. And so there's when it kind of started. And then comes the spring. Here I got 4 dead outs. And then I've got 2 more out there that are just crap hives. They're ready to be thrown in the weeds as far as I'm concerned. And so I'm like, okay, maybe I don't, maybe I need to bring, like Doug's doing there. He's bringing in genetics. I presume he's getting it from a queen breeder that maybe or something, Doug, or is that what you're doing? Or do you just go to the queen breeding store or the queen store?
We'll go to Bee Made. They import queens a lot of the time. They're Chilean. Sometimes they're Hawaiian. Sometimes there's two breeders out of California they bring them in from. So that's our main source there.
Yeah.
Hey, Charlie, did you have you got any new farmers around your area that bought some land or changed hands, anything like that, where they might be using different chemicals for their farming?
Chemical wise, not really.
Yeah.
You
Um,
get farm chemical kill, you'll know it real quick, Tom. I don't know. I'm gonna.
I don't know. I mean, the fields behind me there, if you see where it's kind of brown up on the edge of the horizon there, that was corn ground last year. Now we've taken that ground back. My son has planted wheat in there. Now this spring he's spread fertilizer in there, granulated. And he did do some kind of a herbicide, I guess you would call it, to cut out any broadleaf to keep the grass out of it. And then come July after harvest, he's going to plant everything back into grass.
There is some new chemical they use in herbicides now that's worse than pesticides and killing bees.
Very much so.
I know Michael Palmer's talked about it. Randy Oliver's talked about it. These herbicides today are really bad.
Yeah. I know I've heard about Mike talking about it. I have forgot exactly what the chemical was, but
yeah, he mentioned it. I don't know. I didn't catch the name.
Just recent here in the last week or so. So the bees were dead before the spray ever hit.
Yeah. Pesticide and herbicide, it won't be a slow deterioration death. It'll be the next day. They'll be laying there with their.
Well, I mean, you figure this way: they went out there in October or whatever, they shelled the corn, and that's it. Hasn't done anything since then. They didn't plant any cover crops or anything except for, well, actually, my son went out there and planted the wheat late this year. That's why it's not up where it's about. Usually wheat's usually about 4 to 6 inches tall right now, but his is pretty short.
Do y'all
I was just throwing it out there, variables.
But
in our area, our bees are raised it's a chemical soup in the farming country here. Like crops here, we'll have canola, wheat, oats, barley. There's some sunflower seeds, there's some corn. Everybody uses different chemicals for, different insecticides. Some of it is neonics that's in the seed and grows right within the plant. Last year, they started using on canola here a chemical so that it'll self-pollinate better. The pollen is looser. Fungicides, well, they use different fungicides depending on the crop. So you don't know what's coming back into your hive here anymore, really. We had one yard that was killed by chemical. That was aerial spraying. And when you go in the yard, it's a carpet of dead bees.
right.
Yeah.
Around here, we don't, like you say, it's a lot of, if it's corn, it's pretty much, a lot of that kind of stuff is pretty much all neonic.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff, which really actually is, everybody complains about that. But you watch some of Bob Binney's movies, the one guy down there that had bees, he said when they were spraying the cotton for boll weevil or whatever, he had all kinds of pesticide kill. But when they went to neonics and the plant is toxic to whatever bug lands on it and eats it, he didn't have the bee kill like he did in the past. Had hardly any problems really. So, so I mean, I don't know. It's just one of them things. It's like Doug, it's like it's like you don't know what to say, why they died or whatever, and all. So
right, fresh comb, fresh queens.
They did a test in the province here on like the standing water and sloughs and drainage ditches and stuff. And the neonic chemicals are showing up in every water body we've got on the farmland. You know, your bees go to that, use that water. You know what it's going to do? I have no idea.
Right.
But will the government do anything about it now that they know it's in there?
No, because farming is a big business here.
Yeah. They say,
Yeah,
well, it's
our
not that
lobby
bad.
isn't too powerful. The bee lobby isn't too powerful compared to the fertilizer companies, the Dow Chemicals, and the seed corn companies, and all that.
Well, I could say we're turning the farm back into grass. We're grass farmers. And
Now,
anything,
if you were out in Colorado, that means something entirely different, or Canada for that matter. You're a grass farmer.
Yeah. Ohio is turning into a grass state.
Are you a grass state too up there?
Yeah.
but I mean, anything will be probably a broadleaf killer of some sort and fertilizer and lime, and that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Tim or Tom and Melissa. It was on Inside the Hive concerning chemicals killing the bees in his area. Yeah. Roy wants to know, like, potato fields. The only thing I can think of is I don't know whether potato plants are. I'm sure they're probably. I don't know whether they've got neonics on them or not, because the potato is the root of the plant, and the only other thing is you got potato bug problems. That's for sure. For years.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Yeah, I don't know.
All that, but I don't know. I'm gonna be buying some queens from a friend of mine that's kind of like he basically has the same scenario as Corey Stevens as far as, you know, how he's developed them, and supposedly has their calm, nice breeze along with a honey producer, and supposedly hygienic, and we'll see. We'll bring some, you know, try to requeen the area with another set of genetics and all that stuff here. And
Rebuild.
potatoes are treated badly with. Here we go.
Yeah.
Usually what's a spinosade?
Uh-huh.
I don't know what that is. Oh no.
That's something that you can't say, and I can't either.
One thing about the VSH bees, Charlie, if like some of them are saying they do away with a lot of the viruses, I think that's as big a plus as eliminating the mites, really, if that pans out.
Well, he's been working on it for 5 or 6 years. You know, he does the UBO. He talked about getting UBO testing a year or more ago, but on the list to be able to get it. And then he does the Harbo testing. And I talked to him Sunday, and he said, you know, it took him like 3 years finally to start to see the results of selective breeding and to get that hygienic trait started. And now he does mite washes once a month on every hive, and actually 2 of them, because he said usually the first mite wash will wind up at being a 0, maybe a 1. And then he hits him again with another mite wash. He might wash up a 1 or a 2. And but they're also very gentle. He can mow grass around them and it doesn't disturb them. And it's like Bob talked about those bees going around stinging the dog and all that. He would kill them hives right away.
I'm getting a call, guys. I got to hop off. I'll see you guys later.
All right, we'll see you.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
So he's got gentleness, it's supposed to be hygienic, and it's supposed to be great honey producers. He was doing a couple thousand pounds. Now that was 15 production hives and so many of his nukes. He would grab a few frames of honey out of every nuke and all that. So let's say he's getting 100 pounds per hive. That's exceptional for us in our area. I know that's like nothing compared to what Doug gets. But for us, if last year I got 80 pounds per hive, which is 30 some pounds more than what most people get around here because of the way I manage the hives in the honey season. So I'm going to go ahead and get his queens, and I'm going to rebuild, and I'm just going to continue. I think instead of me grafting here, I'm going to put his queens into my apiary and reestablish the dead outs and my nukes when I sell them, and I'll let the nukes produce their own queens like they usually kind of do in the spring. And then I think what I'll do is I'll use them as resource hives to get all my bigger hives up and running with plenty of brood and whatever. And then I'll take the queens out of some of these like these nukes and stuff that were regenerated. And if I got some queen sales, I'll sell those queens and put his queens in there to kind of get brand new fresh queens across the board. And they're also hygienic across the board. And they're going to be mated. They're not going to be virgins, because I talked to him about that. And I know there's a lot of talks about here, using virgin queens. And I said, well, scientifically, I mean, what I've read and understand is that you're only getting half the picture here. If you got a hygienic queen, it's supposed to be hygienic bred. Well, if you don't get it mated with a hygienic drone that came from a hygienic queen, and when they get together, now you got the full picture of a hygienic, queen bee that's completely bred with that I've grown. It came from a hygienic queen. Whereas if I bring a virgin hygienic queen into my yard, it's going to mate with my drones, which are whatever. So you're only getting half the picture. So that's one of and I questioned him about that, and he was saying I was exactly right. So that's another thing that that's why I'm going with this guy in Pennsylvania. And another thing is that he's only about 2 hours away, I believe. And I can drive there and pick these queens up. So now I am reducing the stress on them queens and not having to put them through the mail or overnight shipping, which is also more money. And I think that'll also be a much more betterment for the queens and for me. So,
Yeah.
So now we got Kentucky guy. What's it? People are becoming more aware of honeybees nowadays because of we want to go. This is the one I want. No, we want that one.
Hey, Charlie, I'm going to jump off. I've yawned like 5 times already.
All right. Well, that's fine. We might make it an early night tonight too. I got work.
Yeah, I must be getting tired.
All right. Very good. Okay.
Everybody have a good one.
All right, Tom. See ya.
See ya.
All right. VHS gene is recessive from what I understand. That's correct, Kentucky guy. And that was what we had talked about. And then like here also, Tom and Melissa. Yeah, I say that too. It's, it's a long-term game, years and years of long-term situation there. And I don't know. What's this one here? David here. Well, that's why I'm going to have my queens bred in the breeder's own apiary where he's been doing this for 6 or 7 years. So the genetics in his area are dominant. And I think that's what Tim and Tom and Melissa is saying the same thing. Is this is something that, it's going to take years, and hopefully I will have a dominant. I'll have number one, gentle bees. Number two, or if they're VHS, that's great. And they're good honey producers. And if I can keep up with the reinstalling of fresh queens and then having the area, I'll be supplying the area with better genetics for other beekeepers and everything. And all that. And then I'm going to get down here to Tom and them. They're going to get drone frames and stuff like that. I'm going to start doing I got drone frames. I just haven't put them in. I need to wax them up. And I think that when it comes to queens and like Doug here, you've been doing it as a business for years. And the knowledge base that you have where I'm relatively, I've only been at it for about 12 years, but I'm just, it's just now I'm starting about, knowing when to, how to feed and knowing how to treat well, of course that's been an ongoing process because of Varroa being changing all the time. But I think queens are another facet or avenue in a beekeeper's life that you need to understand what, you hear a lot of, folks like Ian and all, they talk about queens and they talk about genetics and it's like, yeah, you kind of get the broad concept of it, but finally the light comes on and says, oh, okay. When you see a shotgun pattern, it's like, okay, the backyard beekeeper, the small one, like, oh, well, we'll pet that bee along and hopefully she'll make it and do this and do that. Where the commercial guy says, that's when he sees that sign, it's like out, they're done. And I think that's where, that's the way you do it, Doug, is, that bee's gone.
I don't know whether you ever get to understand them completely, Charlie. Like when you were talking about Ian, last year was a perfect example.
Yeah,
go for years and then he loses everything just about. And then, I don't know what our spring is going to be like. We've had a winter like we've never had before, and winter has an awful effect on them. So, what we're faced with coming up here in the next month, have no idea right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's like you say, you don't know. And then I have a friend of mine who I help, go down south and I get a truckload of bees. I help him drive and stuff like that. He always says he said, well, just belly up to the craps table and then roll the dice.
Yeah.
And he says, that's beekeeping. Yep. And sometimes I wonder whether or not he's right.
Well, last spring you thought you had everything figured out. This spring,
Yeah, I thought I was like, man, I finally got it. I made it. I've come to, I had Avis Biologic was like the silver bullet for making serious amount of bees for me. And I figured out how to manipulate the hives to get the most honey out of it. And that kind of stuff. And here I got, it just all went hell in a handbasket, Mark here, he does a lot of good mating and stuff. A version that's mated in yards throws 75% VH workers, being the queen has 32 chromosomes and have 16, although the drone's set throws will be 100%. I think I kind of know what he's talking about there.
Well, figure out those possibilities. You got 32 on one end and 16 on the other, and that's figure out how many possibilities there can be out of the crosses. And beef cattle, I know, there's been a lot of studies done on it. You breed the same bull to the same cow every year. You know how many possibilities you get on that? 27,000 from the top end to the to the lower end. So there's a lot of minority genetics involved when you go to talking, to breeding on the situation.
So if you breed the cow, you're not going to get the same quality cow every year, right?
Lord, no. No, people think, well, that's a good cross. The possibilities are 27,000 to 1, and it won't be. That don't mean you won't get 2 good ones in a row, but on the other end, you may get 5 bad ones in a row. If you understand, it depends on how the chromosomes happen to match up.
Okay, it's all inside the.
There's not as many chromosomes in honeybees from the drones to the females as there are in bovines, which is a cow, but there's lots of possibilities. You figure 32 into 19, how many crosses possibilities that throw there, that's going to be in the thousands.
Yeah.
Without taking the time to figure it
Matt
out.
says that my losses are not that bad. Well, I don't know about that, Matt. I just that's Moore's Homestead there, Matt. I just yeah, we get, like Darren there talks about, you think you figured it out and then you always get a curveball and all that kind of stuff. But
well, you know what Doug Longman says, don't you, about that type of thing, don't you, Charlie? He
who?
says that's beekeeping. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
The thing with the queen bee too, JW, she doesn't just mate with one animal like a bull and a cow.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
She's got a half a dozen different mates. So,
or 20, so for the different chromosomes in those, like Mark was saying there on his chat, if he was reading it, he said there's, 26 and 19 or whatever they are, but multiply that by 19 by 20 if she crosses with 20 different drones out there in that drone congregation area. So what are your possibilities? Infinite. That's the way I'm going to put it.
Yeah.
Well, I think I agree with Mark there about that. Or let's say if you start out with virgin queens that are VHS, you put those in your yard and they mate, and then those queens produce drones, and it'll take several, I'll say a couple years in order to and you keep flooding your yard with new virgin queens that are VHS, and then it builds up those genetics in your area or in your yard through drones and the queens. And I think, like it says, it takes a period of years to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish, at least try to better your bees this way. And at least that's the way it sounds like to me. And that's where you go back to where I say with the commercial bee breeders, if you can somehow get all those kind of guys on board at the same level as far as being testing and hygienics and all that, where their bees perform at this level, that'll be a betterment to every beekeeper across the United States and the world and everything.
Yeah. In our instance, we don't have another beekeeper, within miles and miles of us. We could get the genetic pool narrowed down with just whatever we're using, really.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a situation like that, So
no, it's just I don't know how to put it. It's everybody talks queens. That's the point I was making earlier, I believe in, you can't, whether it's cattle, hogs, dogs, you can't line breed. That's the reason I buy packages. I don't usually buy nukes, strictly not because I can't raise my own or because I'm not willing to, is I'm looking for outcross genetics, pure and simple, where that be drones or queens.
When you say line breed, what do you mean? Talking about a
Line
genetic?
breeding is what's is when you're breeding back to the same line of bees, where like if you got the apiary and you keep breeding your own stuff time and time again, then that's
Are you talking about grafting within your own apiary and you just keep
right.
cycling? Okay, instead of bringing
That's
that.
the reason I go out for outcrosses. Now, I'm not saying I'm right. Consider the source. I'm no geneticist, but I have I've bred cattle for 62 years, and it just don't work. And I know and bred some bird dogs at the same time. And line breeding, you're going to get there's a good possibility you're going to bring out the most recessive genes that comes from the chromosomes, if I can explain it correctly. You're going to get all the good or you're going to get all the bad, and it goes from one end to the other. And from a recessive gene standpoint, usually the bad overrides the good as a whole. I'm talking about an average.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense to y'all, but it's quite complicated unless you've studied a lot of genetics, which I did a few years back when I was in college, but that's been an old lesson. But I'm just talking about the world of hard knocks, so to speak. You learn by experience, and Doug will tell you that. If you've been in the bee business for years, I've not been at it big time for years, but I used to help my dad when I was a kid, so I've been around a few honeybees in my time. But I'm not big. I mean, I keep 50 colonies at the most, so I'm not trying to make a living at it. If I sold all the honey I produced at $100 an ounce for the next 10 years, I'd have trouble getting back to the top of the hole based on my expenditures. I can tell you that. I don't do it for dollars. I do it for
Right.
But it's kind of like Bob was talking about, I think last week, Charlie, that like this whole VSH, it's a wild west out there. Like there's no set standard for it.
Well, that's what I've been saying tonight, is that it would be the betterment for all beekeepers across the world or in this country and yours and all, is that if the breeders, the commercial ones, would all get on the same stage at the same level and have the same testing, that your queens need to meet these standards.
Yeah.
Then have certain standards that they have to meet, then it would put the genetics, the queen bee genetics throughout the countries and bring us up, I think, to a better level of bees and stuff that we could depend on.
Yeah, if they all had to do the Harbo method and rate them that 4, 3, 2, 1, you'd have a better idea of what you're getting out there. But boy, right. she's a Wild West show right now.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. It's just like we went down to the one place where we get bees, and he was saying, "Oh, look at this here." I think it was a Russian bee or whatever, but it was 3 or 4 years old, and she's still laying great. Well, okay, but does the genetics dwindle after so many years in that bee? I don't know. So
that's hard to say. I'm going to say, but last week I'm a hobbyist, but I drove 1,600 miles last week. As I told you, I was in need of.
I thought you were using your jet.
Sorry?
I thought you were using your jet.
Yeah. and a pig's baloney. But anyway, and I talked to one of the prime YouTubers in the country, and
That's Bob Betty.
the King Bob, and he said, he don't talk bad about anyone, folks. I don't know if you know the man or not, but I consider him a fine gentleman, and he wouldn't say crap about Doug Longman or Charlie Thomas or
Right.
J.W. Irwin, and if he despised you, and he said I would advise against it, because they're probably this early not properly mated. He said there's some, and that's what you get into with a situation on this stuff is what you're saying, Charlie, is, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not talking against you now. I want you to know that I'm talking.
That's fine. I mean, that's what we're here for, to be able to talk and try to maybe make sense of everything.
But what you got to take into consideration, everything's fine theoretically till you involve that almighty dollar. Then you've got certain guys that's going to take advantage of you if you let them, just because they can get a dollar bill out of you. Do you understand where I'm coming from there? I'm not saying that it's good or bad, but everybody isn't 100%.
Right.
Every queen producer isn't 100%. I don't like to say it's honest or dishonest, but when it comes to the almighty dollar,
I wouldn't say that. I think they're just producing a product.
Sure.
But what I'm getting at is the level of quality is a in today's world, it's sort of substandard.
Yeah.
Now James there on Old McDowell, he says he does his own breeding, but also, James, don't you actually buy in breeder queens every couple years that you use them to breed your own, graft from your own breeder queens and stuff like that? I think you were talking about that.
But there again, there's no standard for those breeder queens.
No? You don't think so? I guess not. I guess you're right. Yeah, I never thought about that.
Well, here's the situation that I've dealt with over the years in the purebred cattle business, fellas. These associations, it's got so bad with them lying about the genetics that the register, like the American Angus Association, their cattle and the Herefords or whatever. Of course, I was a big cattle guy, but all your major registration, and going back to the point Doug just made, now you have to have them genetically DNA tested to get them registered. Make sure that that you're not lying about the breed or the genetics of that particular cow. You gotta send in blood tests on everything you register.
Right.
That's how bad it's gotten. And just like Doug was saying, there's no standard in the bee world yet. Hopefully that may come with some of these breeder queens down the line, but right now we don't have a standard, if I understand it correctly. And I'm no expert. I'm just talking about a local hobbyist that loves messing with them. I just like being stung.
And right there's a very important statement right there from Tom and Melissa.
Yeah.
Just to know your breeder, ask questions on how he tests and what their scores was. First thing is you need, as a queen or as a beekeeper, to understand these tests and know what they mean. And then you can go ask them, well, what's the score of this or that and whatever. And, if he hems and haws, you're like, okay, he never did any test, or maybe he's got I think that new UBO is a 1 through 4, and I think a 4 is better.
Yeah.
Is it a 3? Is it a 4? Is it a 1? One's, is normal crap that you get today.
Yeah.
Norman, my daughter has horses. Hay shortage here, almost crisis mode. It sucks. Where you at, Norman? Where's Norman located at?
Until I know the traits. It's a way to constantly get a decent, my breeders.
Yeah, if you were close to my son, he would sell you hay. He's the hay king in the area. Now let's see what James come back and says here. Yes. All right, so he does get inbreeder queens, but then he also checks them out too. And
I'm assuming by documentation, that's all artificial inseminated. That's the only way it could be documented. Am I correct, James? I'm just asking a question here. If you're on there, buddy, is that them's all
AI.
artificially inseminated queens?
Yeah, I would.
Yeah.
You couldn't, if they're open mated in drone congregation areas, there's no way you could document it without doing some high power genetic testing, I would think, or DNA testing.
I presume yes.
Yeah, he's
yeah.
responding yes. Them's all AI queens,
Yeah.
so that makes a big
Yeah, well,
difference.
that's the only way you could do it
Yeah,
and all that. So
but,
yeah.
But you're talking about, for a non-professional, you're talking about some pretty good expenditures there when you can give up to what? And I may be totally wrong.
I think
Some
there's some
AI breeder queens might bring up to what, $3,000 or $4,000 a piece. I don't know. I'm just asking.
I think around 1,500 or so.
Okay.
Somewhere's in that 1,200 US dollars.
Okay.
I've heard him between 12 and 1,500. I'll be back, guys, a little bit.
Well, he's in trouble now, isn't he, Doug? He's got me and you here. I talk too much and you don't say enough.
Senior Citizens Patrol now.
Yeah. We could handle all these young bucks popping in here and telling us what if and where from. It's an interesting, honeybee's a fascinating little creature, which I'm sure you're aware of more so than very much so than me. But if you study them, it's amazing the things that they get done.
Yeah, and when you think you get the things figured out, you're in for a shock.
Well, being of a facetious nature that I am, I kind of like to joke around. Just like you said last year, Charlie, you thought you had her made, and the Apis biologic was the answer. There's no silver bullets out there. What I'm thinking in the honeybee.
I still think that Apis biologic, putting it in sugar water is definitely
I agree 100%. I believe in the product.
Huge help, when you can turn the sugar water. It's the way I feel about it. Turning the sugar water into nectar that has the same traits as nectar, I think really works well. Like I say, my big thing is I'm gonna. It's just another level of beekeeping that you have to kind of figure out is we all know that queens, the queen is what dominates the hive. What makes everything work inside of a beehive. And
well, really it doesn't. I mean, not to be, I'm coming here we go. I'm not trying to be argumentative, Charlie, but actually the worker bees actually,
yeah, the worker bees do a lot of, where they about swarming and different things like that. But what I'm getting at is the worker bees are reacting to the genes of what they've gotten from the mama bee, from the queen. At least that's kind of the way I think about it.
Well, I could qualify for the bee world. I've got a queen bee in my household, and she tells me what to do, and I'm just a lowly drone, so. But I've had the same one for 58 years, fella, so I'm way down the totem pole.
Well, I think the big takeaway tonight is number one, you have to be observant of your queen and know when she's starting to fail, to kind of keep ahead of, instead of not understanding that and come into spring with a dead out and like, well, what happened? Whereas if you say, "Oh, I got a queen here, it's got a shotgun pattern," we can't pet this bee along and try to help it out or feed it or whatever. It's time to give it the hive tool test, and hopefully there's queens in your yard or replacement nukes or whatever that you can bring in a new queen that's fresh and new and viable and stuff like that. And I mean, that's what I've always been trying to do. I always have, usually at least 50% of my hives are covered with an insurance hive, which is another nuke in the yard. And that's something that I'm kind of wrestling with right now. I've been, every time I seem to sell nukes, I have a lot of stress about it. Dealing, it's like one night, Tom and Melissa, we were talking about it, where when you sell a nuke, the sale isn't just the sale doesn't end when you get the money. It's that now you got to, usually you're selling it to a new beekeeper. Now you got to kind of sit there and give them a crash course on how to handle this nuke, and don't be messing with it. Don't leave it in your garage for a week or in your hot trunk of your car and while you're transporting, and tell them how to get it home, and make sure you put it in the wooden box when you do get it home, stuff like that. And whereas with honey, I get the money, you got the honey, see you later, goodbye. That's the end of the sale. And honey sales for me have started to really pick up the last year. And I'm thinking about what I'm leaning towards this year is to, of course, establish my honey production area. I actually am going to expand at least to 14 hives. I've been kicking the idea around of going to 16 with 14 nukes and getting rid of selling nukes, even though it's a sort of a cash flow for me. Thanks, Norman. And not dealing with that stressor in the springtime every year. And really appreciate that, Norman. And just worry about keeping my honey production hives up and running, have backup nukes over here for any situations and all, and maybe selling a few to some close friends that know what they're doing as far as the nukes go. I'm not sure. I still like, keeping around 30 as far as, working the bees and stuff. So if I kept the nuke business, if I, I found that if I want to sell 10 nukes, I got to have about 15 nukes just in case of, for the nukes dying off, and that not everybody's going to get 100% through. I need more Normans. Okay, well, money's fine, Robert, but I still like my bees. They are fascinating. And so that's kind of where I'm at.
Do you ever consider going to 10 frames and reducing the number of hives you need then?
What, for nukes?
No, for production hives.
Well, most all my production hives are 10 frame, but I got 12 production hives right now that are 10 frame. I'm going to go to 14 for sure. And I've always sold nukes in the spring, and I'm like, it's an extra couple $1,000 that pays for, miticides and other stuff.
Well, they're good insurance hives.
Right. That's what I like about them. Yeah, I need more popcorn money. And so I've been thinking about, well, instead of, increase my, he's got his popcorn dog. Everybody's checking in. We're all beekeepers. We're all going to do popcorn and have cats. And I'm thinking about, like you say, going up to about 16 production highs this year, 2 more than what I thought, and fill the rest of it out with nukes. And see, my problem of it is my nukes normally, all my production hives are mediums. Now I do have this hive lifter, and I've been kicking that eye around where going back to a deep brood box and doing a double deep through the winter time, which is 10 less frames I got to deal with. And I have the lifter to be able to lift those heavy duty boxes up off the top, when I'm, let's say, replacing, taking out miticide strips or something like that and all that. So, and then and I'm going to put some Appy tablets in this fall, let them go through the winter. I'm wondering whether or not to say, hey, put the Appy tablets in and not do any oxalic acid. That's kind of a gamble.
Yeah, well, we would like to try the Appy tablets this fall. I don't want to put them in this spring because, I'm not sure what effect that may have. You don't want something in the honey that comes back to bite you.
Well, you don't want, if you're trying to produce a lot of honey, that isn't one of the primary thing. Now, I'm just asking. No, I'm not trying to tell you that it is or isn't. Didn't Bob say one of the primary ingredients in the Appy tablets, they had quite a bit of thymol in them?
It is.
Yeah, it is. Down laying?
Yeah.
That'd be a good reason, I'd think, not to. And I'm not into honey production, so I'm just into bees and stings. I like stings, and that's like an old timer that smoked like a fiend. I used to see him occasionally. I said, why don't you give that up? He said, I hate smoking, but I love to cough, so. So that's the reason I'm in honeybees. I don't like to work, but I like to get stung. So.
Well, up here we get to treat in fall, but it's a short period, and then we're into winter. If we could throw something in there that would kind of look after the mites through the winter, boy, that'd be a plus.
Yeah.
Hey, Amber. Flower Street. What I found, I do single brood chamber when it comes to the honey production. And the way I do my, I do a modified demery. That's where I don't have swarming. And I don't know. I think, I know Doug puts the supers on and he doesn't really swarm as far as he knows. And I also know that Doug's in an area that has a huge freight train of nectar coming in all at one time. And your season's short. And it also starts in May, isn't it, Doug? Honey season starts.
Yeah, we could get it going about the end of May. It depends on the spring, but really starts heavy about the second week of June.
All right, so let's say honey season starts in June then?
About the second week of June. And
all right, so now here we are coming out of winter. April, May is kind of like your build-up time, getting ready for the flow. Then your flow hits, let's say first or second week in June, like you said. And it goes till probably into July sometime, and then you're done?
About the end of July.
About the end of July. So your honey season is June and July. Ours are April, May, and June, about halfway through June, and I'm pretty much done. But you got to remember one thing. We got June 21st involved here, which is the summer solstice. And I presume your queen is going to start slowing down after that date in brood production.
Yeah, I don't know whether she slows down much because there's still a good flow. I think the flow coming in keeps her producing. When the flow starts to slow, she will.
Well, there goes JW there. I guess he'll be back in. Well, anyway, what I was getting at with Brian's comment there, I find that most people, if you got single brood chamber management, then you're going to put a candy board on, or you're going to put maybe a medium super on for there's a honey reserve and that kind of a thing. And because there's, I mean, I know you guys see that's another thing. You guys got those super winners. You're wanting that hive to completely shut down and just be completely dormant for 6 months. And we don't get that here.
Yeah.
We'll get those 40 or 50. We'll get a 50-degree day in the middle of not so much like this year. We didn't get that in January. It didn't hardly get above 45, but in October, November, December, we'll have a fly day in there. January wasn't a fly day, and then we have fly days in February, and of course, you know, in March here and stuff like that. So our bees are going to use up resources and stuff. So the way I've got it set up is I got 3 mediums. I go to 2 mediums for a single brood chamber when it's a honey flow, queen excluder and honey supers, and then I put another brood chamber up top, and I keep cycling the brood frames around, which I know you guys can't do that, but at my level I can. It pretty much stops the swarming problem, and it actually increases my honey production. So, and then when I come fall, I put that 3rd box back on, and it becomes a honey super. And they'll fill it up between, you know, since we have a spotted lanternfly from the end of July through August, they'll fill that super up with honey, and that'll get them through the summertime. And then I'll hit them about a week after Labor Day with sugar water and fill them up for the wintertime. And it works. And it, you know, I'm kind of like using single brood at certain times of the year. So that means I'm going to have to put I'm going to have to put a deep on top of a deep. And if I'm putting in Aprivar and then coming behind that and putting in Formic, and I got to keep lifting that box off. So I guess I'll be using my hive lifter a little bit more than what I thought I would use. You know, it's going to be a new tool this year. It's going to be a learning curve with it. And I might be using it more than I ever thought about being, because I'll get used to being lazy. And I'm like, oh, heck, I'll just take it over here and push the button and raise it up, you know, and I don't have to, why worry about my, you know, my lower back and my shoulders aching. I'll just use my lifting machine.
I apologize for my internet provider. They're sure not doing a very good job.
Your connection?
Yeah,
you just
trouble, you know. Again, I don't usually have any trouble, but I've sure had a lot of trouble tonight.
See, our swarm control, we don't really have a real good program. You know, once we come out of winter, our strong hives, we can rob some brood out of them. That's about the limit of our swarm control. About the time ours are really needing control is when the honey supers are going on, and it's too late then.
And Michael, how do I store? Well, I'm running out of space now, but I've got 3 freezers full of comb. I put them in the freezer, and that kills all the bugs, and they stay in the freezer all winter long. And now I did have some supers that I didn't have. I cycled it through the freezer, and these combs on the frames were not quite fully developed. So I stack them up, and then I use what do you call it? The stinky stuff for
moth crystals.
Moth crystals, but it's got to be the certain type
or moth crystals.
Yeah,
usually.
the benzene moth crystals instead of the naphthalene, and there's benzene or something like that. One of them, I used to have a little saying for, I forget what they call that type of word, but one has no and one has yes or something like it. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I use. And I put cover the bottom up, and I put it up on top, and I put a shim, and I covered that up with a piece of coroplast to let that smell go through there, and I didn't have any issues.
Okay, let me ask you this, Charlie. Or once you extract your honey, now those frames, do you put them out for something to clean them out or anything before you freeze them?
I put them outside, and now outside my house.
Yeah.
The bee yard is probably 300 yards away. So they're flying across and finding the frame or the boxes up on their end. A couple hours, they're licked clean. You know, by the end, I'll let them sit out there all day long, and then I'll just put them away.
Well, that's what I do before. I don't usually freeze them. I've got some of these shipping containers, and I saturate that with the moth crystals, mothballs. Well, the old timer called them mothballs. Now they say don't use the mothballs; they're too strong. Use the crystals.
Well, what I have is I found them on Walmart, and they're like urinal cakes inside a little plastic housing thing. I bought them last year offline, and they were reasonably priced. I looked at them this year. I think it was this year or last year. I guess it was last year. And the prices just tripled or something. I was like, they were out of sight. I didn't need any, but yeah, goodness gracious.
We just use Mother Nature. She turns down the thermostat.
Yeah, I'm sure of that. Well, we get some of that here too. We don't get it in there like you get for long periods of time. Doug, but I keep all mine in one of those big storage. You know what I'm talking about? 40-foot, 8-foot wide, 10-foot tall, 40-foot long. I put all my in that, and then I saturate them. You know, just the floor of it, and then they say to put them up above, but I just saturate that thing, and I use it as a mothball haven, so to speak, and put all my boxes for storage during the winter months in there. All my. Do you guys? You surely keep your brood frames separated from your production frames, do you? Or you switch them back and forth? Surely not. I'm just asking.
They're separate.
Yeah. Okay. I was sure you surely did.
Yeah, Norman. It's called Varroa sensitive hygienics, and it's genetic traits within that queen that passes it out through the worker bees to smell the brood, and if they smell the smell of a Varroa mite in there, they yank that brood out with that Varroa mite out of there. So they're trying to breed a bee that deals with the Varroa without us having to put all these chemicals in there. It's just been a very long process of trying to get that to happen.
Does the container ever get warm enough that would melt your frames down, JW?
Yeah, they will. In the summer, they certainly will. You got to be awful careful. Yeah. I usually run some. I've got some big old cattle fans. Everything in me goes back to my cattle days. When I used to show bulls, you had to keep them cool and stuff. I run big fans in there to generate some coolness.
Well, guys, it's 11 o'clock here. I'm going to go ahead and shut down the stream, and hopefully everybody had a good night tonight and all that. So we'll see you next week, same time, same place, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Well, Charlie, I appreciate you putting up with me. I get a little kick sometimes out of playing devil's advocate, just to
not a problem. I'm going to go ahead and shut the thing down. Everybody can stay in if they like.